In the early hours of Christmas Eve, 1945, a blaze tore through a home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, forever altering the lives of the Sodder family. George and Jennie Sodder had 10 children, but that night, 5 of them would vanish without a trace. Most people would assume the missing youngsters were consumed by the flames. Yet the truth is far less straightforward. No bodies were ever recovered, no physical evidence of their deaths was found. It was as if the children had simply disappeared. Welcome to this deep dive into one of America's most haunting mysteries, the Sodder family case. It's a story of tragedy, unanswered questions, and a family's relentless search for the truth. Tonight we'll take you through every chilling detail of the Christmas Eve fire that changed the Sodders' lives forever, and why, after more than 7 decades, the mystery still lingers. Before we begin, a word of caution. This case involves the disappearance of children and details of a devastating fire. It is unsettling and heartbreaking, but it is also one of the most compelling unsolved mysteries in American history. If you are fascinated by stories that blur the line between tragedy and conspiracy, you'll want to stay until the very end. Chapter 1. The Sodder Family. The Sodders were an Italian immigrant family living in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George Sodder, originally Giorgio Sodder, emigrated from Sardinia, Italy in 1908 at the age of 13. He quickly found work on the railroads before starting his own trucking business, hauling dirt for construction and later coal. He was hardworking, ambitious, and opinionated. His wife, Jennie, was also Italian-born, and together they raised 10 children. The Sodders' life was full of love, routine, and laughter. Their home on Route 16 was always bustling with activity. By 1945, their children ranged from toddlers to teenagers. The Sodder household was the picture of a large, happy immigrant family living the American dream. But the events of one cold December night would change that forever. Chapter 2. Christmas Eve. On December 24th, 1945, the Sodder family gathered to celebrate Christmas Eve. The older children had stayed up late, excited to play with toys they had received. The mood was festive, the house warm with laughter. George and 2 of the older sons went to bed earlier, while Jennie stayed up later to finish chores. Around 12:30 a.m., Jennie was startled by the sound of the phone ringing. When she answered, a woman's voice asked for someone Jennie didn't know. Jennie could hear laughter and clinking glasses in the background, as though the caller was at a party. When Jennie told her she had the wrong number, the woman laughed strangely before hanging up. Jennie thought little of it, but it was one of several strange events that night. Before going back to bed, Jennie noticed the lights still on and the curtains open downstairs. This was unusual. The children were responsible for closing the house at night, and they were usually careful. Jennie switched off the lights and drew the curtains before returning to bed. Around 1 a.m., Jennie awoke again. This time she heard a loud thump, as though something had landed on the roof, then rolled down. Moments later, she smelled smoke. The Sodder home was on fire. George, Jennie, and 4 of their children escaped the blaze, but 5 children, Maurice, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jennie Jr., 8, and Betty, 5, were trapped upstairs. Desperate, George tried everything to save them. He broke a window, severely cutting his arm in the process, and attempted to reach the staircase. But the stairwell was already engulfed in flames. Outside, George tried to grab his ladder, which was always kept leaning against the house. Strangely, it was missing. He then attempted to use his coal trucks to climb onto the roof. Both trucks, which had been running perfectly earlier that day, refused to start. Neighbors who tried to call the fire department couldn't get an answer. Hours later, firefighters finally arrived, but by then, the house was reduced to smoldering rubble. Chapter 3: The Missing Remains. In the aftermath of the fire, the Sodders expected to find the remains of their 5 children, but none were discovered. No bones, no teeth, no trace of them at all. The fire chief, F.J. Morris, claimed that the blaze had been hot enough to completely cremate the children's bodies. But a lot of experts disagreed. House fires, even those that burn intensely, rarely destroy human bones completely. Tests showed that bones survive in house fires, lasting far more time than the Sodder fire. Cremation, in fact, requires temperatures around 1,400 to 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit for several hours. Conditions unlikely in a home fire. Yet nothing was found in the Sodder ruins. For George and Jennie, this was the first major clue that something was terribly wrong. The fire had destroyed their home, but had it really taken their children? Chapter 4: Suspicious Circumstances. Strange details soon emerged. The missing ladder was later found thrown down an embankment, far from the house. Both coal trucks had worked perfectly the day before. Was it sabotage that kept them from starting? The phone line, initially thought to have been destroyed in the fire, was later discovered to have been cut. A woman claimed she saw the missing Sodder children peering out of a passing car the night of the fire. Another one reported seeing them at a rest stop between Fayetteville and Charleston. A third one claimed to have seen them with unfamiliar adults at a Charleston hotel, speaking Italian. Sometime later, while the Sodder family was trying to rebuild their lives, they began to suspect the fire department. If the fire had been caused by an electrical problem, the power should have gone out during the early stages of the blaze. Yet the Christmas lights had remained on. Soon evidence began to emerge suggesting that the fire had not started from an electrical fault, but had been deliberately set. A bus driver passing through Fayetteville on Christmas Eve reported seeing people throwing fireballs at the house. Months later, when the snow melted, Sylvia found a small, hard, dark green object among the nearby bushes, similar to a rubber ball. George remembered Jennie's account of hearing something hit the roof and roll off the night of the fire, and thought the object resembled a type of hand grenade or incendiary device used in combat. The family later claimed that, contrary to the fire department's conclusions, the blaze must have started on the roof, even though there was no way to prove it. A telephone repairman told the Sodders that the home's phone line had not been burned in the fire, as they had initially thought, but had been cut by someone who would have had to climb 14 feet up a pole and stretch across about 2 feet to reach it. A man was identified and arrested after neighbors reported seeing him stealing a block and tackle from the property around the time of the fire. He admitted the theft and to have cut the phone line, claiming he thought it was an electrical wire, but denied any involvement in the fire itself. However, no official records exist of this suspect's identification, and it was never explained why he would have felt the need to cut any utility line to the Sodder home during the theft. Jennie always struggled to accept Morris's conclusion that the children's bodies had been completely consumed by the fire. Many appliances were recovered from the ashes still recognizable, as were fragments of the tin roof. Jennie compared these results with a newspaper report of a similar house fire that had killed a family of 7 around the same time, in which all the victims' remains were found. She even burned small piles of animal bones herself, none of which were completely destroyed. A local crematorium employee told her that human bones can remain even after being subjected to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,090 degrees Celsius, for 2 hours, much longer and hotter than the Sodder house fire could have been. One day, the Sodders decided to hire a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley from the nearby town of Gawley Bridge to look into the case. Tinsley informed them that the insurance agent who had threatened George over his anti-Mussolini views had been on the coroner's jury that declared the fire accidental. He also learned of local rumors that, contrary to the official report given to the Sodders, Morris had allegedly found a heart and placed it inside a metal box, which he secretly buried. Morris supposedly confessed this to a local minister, who later confirmed it to George. When George and Tinsley confronted Morris, he agreed to show them the box, which was dug up and taken to a local funeral director. The director concluded it contained a fresh beef liver that had never been exposed to fire. Later rumors circulated in Fayetteville that Morris had admitted the organ did not come from the fire at all, but that he had buried it in hopes the Sodders would find it and be convinced the missing children had died in the blaze. The Sodders have never refused to give up hope. They printed flyers with photos of the missing children, offering a $5,000 reward, later doubled, for information leading to their whereabouts. In 1952, they erected a billboard on the site of the house and another along Route 16 near Ansted, displaying the children's photos and asking, "The Sodder children, what was their fate?" This billboard remained for nearly 40 years, a haunting landmark in Fayetteville. In 1967, the Sodders received what they considered the most credible evidence yet that at least one child had survived. One day, Jennie found an envelope in the mail, postmarked in Central City, but with no return address. Inside was a photograph of a man in his 30s who closely resembled Louis, who would have been about that age if he had lived. On the back was a cryptic note: Louis Sodder, I love Brother Frankie, Lil Boys, a 90132 or 35. The family hired another private investigator to check into the letter, but he vanished without ever reporting back. The photo nevertheless gave the Sodders renewed hope. They quietly added it to the billboard but did not publicize it widely, out of fear that something might happen to Louis. George passed away in 1969, Jennie in 1989. Both carried the weight of uncertainty until their deaths. Their surviving children continued the search, but like their parents, never found closure. Chapter 5: Theories and Conspiracies. The Sodder case has inspired countless theories. The simplest explanation is that the children died in the fire, and their remains were either overlooked or destroyed. But the lack of bones, the expert testimonies, and the suspicious circumstances cast doubt on this theory. George was a vocal critic of Mussolini, which could have angered local supporters of the Italian dictator. Some believe the mafia kidnapped the children to punish George for his outspoken views, staging the fire as a cover-up. Just weeks before the fire, An insurance salesman warned George that his house would burn and his children would go up in smoke if he refused to buy coverage. George had declined. Could this have been a threat carried out? Another theory suggests the children were kidnapped and sold, possibly to relatives in Italy. Reports of the children being seen in the company of strangers lend some weight to this possibility. The strange behavior of fire officials, particularly the planted beef liver, raises suspicions of a cover-up. Were authorities complicit or simply negligent? Chapter 6: Legacy and Unanswered Questions. Today, the Sodder family case is remembered as one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. It has been featured in books, documentaries, and countless true crime discussions. For many, it represents not just the tragedy of a family, but also the failures of institutions meant to protect them. Were the Sodder children consumed by the fire, their remains somehow lost? Or were they kidnapped, their lives hidden away under new identities? The truth has never been proven, and perhaps never will be. What remains is a story of perseverance, suspicion, and sorrow, and a reminder of how sometimes the truth is stranger and crueler than fiction. The Sodder family's nightmare continues to fascinate and disturb us, decades later. It forces us to ask difficult questions. How much trust can we place in official investigations? What happens when evidence is ignored or concealed? And most hauntingly of all, what really happened to those 5 children? As you reflect on this story, ask yourself, if the children were alive, why didn't they ever reach out? If they perished in the fire, why was no trace ever found? The answers may be lost to time, but the questions will never fade.